I was so excited, envisioning myself going to medical school, helping other people. In that first year of university, the course of my entire life changed. That little 11-year-old girl was right. 8 years later, those stomach pains grew to daily excruciating pain, sometimes worse than that experienced during childbirth. I spent up to 21 days a month in bed, relying solely on my family to help me with daily activities, paralyzed by the pain. The pain would go from my hips to my knees, piercing through my stomach and striking right through my back.
25-year-old Canadian-born to Guyanese parents, Christina Paruag, has been suffering with the pains and complications of endometriosis since the age of 8, a condition that is rarely seen in girls before their first period. Christina's condition is one of genetics, with at least 4 other family members suffering from this disorder, which is not very much known or talked about. After 12 years of living with the disease and countless misdiagnoses and visits with various specialist doctors, Christina was finally diagnosed in 2014 with endometriosis, a disease in which the endometrium, which is the tissue that lines the inside of the uterus or womb, is present outside the uterus and can spread outside of the reproductive area pretty much anywhere in the body.
So I was diagnosed with endometriosis, which is a chronic reproductive condition. It affects 1 in 10 women worldwide. I didn't know I had it actually. So I was in pain from the age of 8 years old with, what now we think is endo. But when I was 12, I had my first period. And of course, in Guyanese households, that again is not very spoken about. And my parents were just excited because they were saying, it's your first period, you're becoming a woman, this is so exciting. And I was just in a ball crying, thinking this is the worst thing that I've ever felt in my life. From that day on, it just kind of started getting worse. I never really missed school until I got to university. And in university, I had what's called a ruptured ovarian cyst, which is like a fluid-filled sac. Ruptured, and it caused a ton of pain. And the doctors thought that it might be appendicitis. So I was going through a bunch of different tests. They told me after that, you should see a gynecologist because it's not really normal to go through these types of issues so often. And I ended up following up with one, but from that ruptured cyst onward, I was just in so much pain every single day that it wasn't until I had a surgery in 2014 that I got diagnosed with this. So it's been quite a journey of not being able to openly speak about it in all these years, not knowing that I had it.
2 years later, after her diagnosis, Christina immediately pledged her life's work to educating her community of Mississauga and Toronto, Canada, about the disease and other issues of women's health with the launch of her own wellness platform called Fem Evolve, producing her first magazine in 2018.
There was one night where I went into septic shock, and it was just a really horrible, near-death experience that I told myself, I never, ever want to go through something like this again. And for all these years, people have been asking me to share about, my story, because I was working in health too at the time. Like I said, I was always interested in health. I'd always gone through all these misdiagnoses. So I really wanted to raise awareness. And I was just seeing this lack of, understanding from the public side of, you go home, you get a diagnosis, and you just get handed medication. But how do you take your health into your own hands? So I really wanted to start talking about prevention and showcasing different women and the things they had been through. So I started up in 2016 just with the idea. And then by 2018, I had formed a full team and we launched our very first issue with a long-term research.
Christina holds a Bachelor of Science in Medical Physics and previously worked in healthcare, neurology, and breast cancer research. She's a former Miss World Canada judge and previously the organizer of Toronto Professional Women's Meetup, a community that she increased by thousands of professional women throughout Toronto. Her platform, Fem Evolve, takes her to many public speaking events, sharing openly about her experiences while inspiring and motivating others.
I think especially in, like I said, immigrant households, Guyanese households, our parents, our grandparents never grew up, commonly talking about periods or what to do when you get your first period, or we don't talk about sex. These things are just very hush hush. In my household, I was never supposed to talk about these things, right? It wasn't until I turned 19 and my parents saw that I was going out there actively talking about the things that was happening to me, and I was getting on stages of, 100 200 people, that they were saying, wow, I think, you should continue this. As much as there's that, shame that comes about, or worrying about what the community will think about you, there's a larger purpose there, which is educating and helping people find the help that they need.
Sometimes I would fall asleep, hoping to escape the nightmare I was in, only to awaken hours later on a blood-filled mattress, lonely. I would scream and cry and beg for it all to stop, and I would wonder, why me?
It's been 2 weeks now since Christina returned from the United Kingdom, where she underwent a successful surgery which should keep the tissues from growing outside of the uterus for at least 5 years, and in some cases the disorder never reoccurs. At present, there is no cure for endometriosis, and even scientists still do not know enough about the disease.
Last year, I came across a doctor in the UK who has a full team, is very, very rigorous and diligent at treating endometriosis. And I had actually booked my flight there just to speak with him in March of this year. But of course, COVID happened, and all of that fell apart. My doctor and I were actively working on an application to have it funded actually through our healthcare system here in Canada, which is OHIP. They fund all our healthcare. And I just went through so much back and forth because endo is not considered disability. And they told me, you can get that care right here in Canada. And I had gone through all the specialists you can imagine, internal medicine clinic. I'd just been searching for answers, and there was no one that was, there to help. They would just tell me, go on low dose antibiotics. You don't need another surgery. You'll be fine. So I took my chances and I flew to England. I saw that doctor and I was very, very impressed by the care that I found there in England. They were able to diagnose me with stage 4 endometriosis, which is actually the worst stage that it could be. That just means it started to infiltrate into your organs, and it's spreading rapidly as well. Again, there's no cure right now. So the only thing you can do is have the surgery and really manage your diet, your stress levels, and your exercise, which all of which I'm trying to actively do. But going through that experience was really interesting because I ended up not having it funded by OHIP. And at that point, my boyfriend and I came up with, this GoFundMe page. I was really against it because I didn't want anyone asking me, why did you go to London? Why didn't you try more here? But I'd already been trying for 4 years. So I just reached a point of, there's no other help here. So we put it up, and in 24 hours, we raised $7,000, which was amazing to me. I never expected that. And now at the end of the surgery, we've raised over $25,000, which has covered the majority of my expenses. So I just feel so thankful that all of that has happened, and I was able to have the surgery, with the support of many people within the Guyanese community, my own friends and family, and just people within, my network and my family's network. So it was quite an experience.
Life after surgery has drastically changed for Christina, keeping stress levels low as well as estrogen levels down, and now even exploring the possibility of freezing her reproductive eggs, since complications may occur while carrying a baby to full term.
So for me, I'm younger, I'm 25. There's a chance of it coming back, by the time I hit 30. At that point, it's not going to be as widespread as it is now. So I could get treated here in Canada because it won't be as complex. But again, there is no full cure. It's really just managing my diet as best as I can. I've cut out a lot of sugar, processed foods, fried foods, really hard in the Guyanese household to do that. How do you cut out all of your favorite foods? But I've had to start eating really, really clean. No alcohol, none of that. So fertility is impacted a lot. I know right now my chances are very low. So a lot of women with endometriosis will go through the route of IVF. And they will choose to, freeze their eggs or freeze an embryo. So that's at a point right now where I'm considering all of that, because my surgeon said, given that I had stage 4, it's really difficult. It's not impossible. There are women that conceive naturally, but it is difficult. And then your chances of miscarriages also goes up.
With so many challenges for a young woman with new changes every day, a support network becomes crucial. So at 25 years of age, how do you feel about life?
Wow, I guess I never really have thought about that. I think overall, I'm very content, even going through so many difficult things. My parents are actually separated, and this happened right when Fem Evolve started. I'd gone through a really difficult time with their separation, with the septic shock I went into, and I thought, this is the end of the world. Like everything's ending. I had a bad breakup, and I just couldn't see, a way out of anything. And I think going through that, it just makes me so much more grateful every day now when I wake up, because I realize, life is short. There's only so much time that you have. And now I don't waste my time. Sorry, I don't waste my time like doing things I don't want to do. I just try to do the things that bring me the most joy. And I think speaking on stages and helping women and advocating is what brings me the most joy. So
I really admire your spirit. I'm just, thinking about everything you've been through, and then these surgeries and launching this program, this wellness platform, being an entrepreneur yourself. It's quite a lot. So I must commend you and congratulate you, for being here and coming this far, and also trying to motivate others and inspire others and educate women, especially about this subject area, which, as you said, is not very much talked about and also not very much known.
when you are chronically ill, you start to feel really down. A lot of women with endometriosis go through suicidal thoughts. So it's a very difficult thing to go through. And, I've never wanted to be in that way of thinking. So I try to get myself out. Positive affirmations are really important. And again, my support system is huge. So my parents are super supportive and, always there for me to talk to. I have a brother who actually has a learning disability, but I always say he's the bronze and I'm the brain because he's always helping me physically when I'm sick, and I'm always there helping him with all the mental tasks. So having him is super important. I have a great partner as well as friends that are just so understanding. So I think your support system is huge when you're going through something like this. And that really came through when I did the GoFundMe, the fundraiser.
You're in a relationship, and tell me about that. Your boyfriend, tell me about that support that he offers to you.
I feel really lucky to have met him because actually when I did start seeing him, I got extremely sick. So I think this is when the stage 4 endometriosis had started kind of coming up, like it started getting worse. And I was like, okay, I don't think he's going to want to keep seeing me, but he stuck around and we decided we would try. We knew it was hard because I was bedridden for sometimes 2 weeks at a time. But he's just been so awesome, so supportive. He's at all my events, all my speeches, always in the crowd, just very, very supportive. And he keeps sharing what I do.
And now, how does she view the future? For endometriosis, what kind of future would you like to see for that? What do you think needs to happen in the future to bring, education and, stop the stigma and the taboo and everything that is surrounding that disorder? And really, what would you like to see as someone who is living with that?
I would love if it could be openly spoken about, if there could be more interviews like this. I think that the fact that we're sitting here talking about it is already a great step. But of course, there's so much more work that needs to be done, right? There's a lot of research that needs to go into how to even diagnose a person that has it, because right now, the only definitive way to diagnose it is through the surgery that they do. In London, I was lucky enough that they actually did an advanced ultrasound, so they were able to see it. But in Canada, they don't have that yet. So we're still very far behind in terms of diagnosing the condition. So if I could have got diagnosed at 12, that would have saved me a lot of issues down the road. So diagnosis for sure, and then treatment, anything around treatment and infertility that could minimize the pain and all of the hormone imbalances that go into this, as well as any advancements in infertility would be incredible to see. But again, I understand that so many women that have it just don't have the courage or the energy to talk about it. So I really kind of want to continue being that vehicle and inspire people that are able to share it, even if it's just with your employer, for example, because this impacts every area of your life, including your job, your family, your relationship. It impacts everything.
For the Guyanese Diaspora News, I'm Jennifer Jabbar.